So I'm experimenting with different ways to get pairs that are disinclined together. So this guy is set up for Lemony. Lemony is going to breed him or she's not breeding anybody. But Lemony has other ideas, and hens with other ideas are always a problem for breeders. Now, mind you, once a hen gets set with a mate, a bonded mate, I'll keep her with him forever. So I rebreed the same pairs over and over again so they can stay together. But Lemony, the first male I put her with, she refused, laid a blank clutch of eggs. Then when I fostered her an egg, and when the chick hatched, he went in and killed one, and then I pulled him, and the second one hatched. It was a foster chick. It was actually Henry, my mom, and she raised him as her own chick on her own with no male, because the male was killing her clutch because she had refused to breed with him, so he knew the babies weren't his. So then I set her up with Pewter, and they were a permanently bonded pair, except that Pewter had an illness, a long-term illness, that kept them from ever breeding successfully. So then I said, all right, after Pewter was gone, I let her pick her male. And she picked Razzle, who was almost 5 years old. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to let her try. She's been through a lot. And, of course, Razzle was infertile because he's just got too old. So the poor girl has been through a lot. She has raised a baby before, but it wasn't actually hers. And I want to set her up with this guy as her permanent mate. She's a high-value hen. They are matched for various and sundry reasons, well matched, and I really want this to work. So what she did was, the first thing she did was go in there and fall in love with the male in the next cage. He is already with his bonded mate. That is that's O'Dowd and Stream. And they're a bonded pair. They've already been together. I'm not going to split them up because some silly girl next door thinks she likes him. So she also probably liked him because they had a nest box, and she didn't for the first few days, for a day. But then she got her nest box, and the first thing she did was move into it and then try and start chasing this guy away because she wanted O'Dowd instead. So I put up a visual block, so she cannot see O'Dowd at all. And since when she calls him, he doesn't call back because he already has a mate, she's starting to forget about him. So the other thing I did was she started turning on this guy like she was going to attack him, and I don't want to wait for it to get that bad. He's not afraid of her, but I could see it intensifying, so I pulled her and left her out in the flight cage for like 3 or 4 days. And she has been very cranky out there. She's mad. She thought she had a nest box. She thought she had this all under control, and it all just disappeared. And she's been out there biting and pecking everybody and being a real bitch. So after 4 days, I put her in here with him, and I sat and watched. And she went over to that blank wall where the guy that she wanted used to be visible. And she kept kind of looking all around it like, And then she went over to the box, and she's like, well, this is still the box. And then she looked at this guy, and she's like, I don't know. So I left her for about an hour, and then I pulled her and put her back out again. Today I brought her, and I watched them carefully. I put her in it about 5 hours ago. I put her in. And I watched her carefully, and she did not show any aggression toward this guy. She ignored him completely, but when he followed her around, she didn't actually try to bite him in any way or peck at him or send him away. And when she went into the box, he went up to the opening in the box, which is what cocks do, and talked in the door to her. He sat there and sang her his songs and the whole thing. But still, after 5 hours, I was like, she's still not sold. So I put her back out there, and I'll let her cool her heels all day. For most of the day tomorrow. And tomorrow afternoon, I'll put her back in here. I'm looking for her to show some sign that he's an acceptable cock, and then she can stay. But not, as long as she's still ignoring him, I know that she's a hen that will go into a box and lay a bunch of blank eggs and ignore a male completely, even if she's housed with him forever. So she does not get to stay until she starts acting like she acknowledges him. These two down here are a mixed bag. He really likes the hen next door because she's actively breeding with her mate. These guys. But they were not bonded anyway. He's just horny. So this little girl, when I blocked the vision there, he's still calling to her and looking through there, but he's also stopped over-aggressing on her, and I see them occasionally starting to have the conversation. So I had to watch, though, because at first he was being highly aggressive, and he's a big boy, so I got to make sure he doesn't damage one of my good hens. So he seems to have kind of decided, he seems to be slowly deciding to pay attention to what's right in front of him, and she doesn't seem to be in any danger anymore. He's not doing that overly aggressive thing. I watched them today. They have a piece of celery in the bottom of their cage, and when I first put it in there, I watched him go down to start eating, and when she came down to eat, he chased her away. But then, within 5 minutes, she came back down again, which means she's not terribly frightened of him, and he let her eat. So they're in transition. They're going to make this move. She's still like, what do you want? He's like, I'll feed you. Look, I'll feed you. But she is not sure. She's a little spooked. But he's kind of coming around, and I think they're going to make it. He's feeding her. But she was like, did you see her like, I'm not sure I want this from you? So they're still kind of working it out. He did scare her at first, though. So that's why she's being very kind of reticent. These two are just love incarnate. And this little girl up here is still obsessing over the neighbors. However, she is spending more and more time in the middle of the cage instead of on that side. And if you look, her attention is forward and toward the male. I got a siren going by. So she's slowly but surely becoming unobsessed. But she is in the wrong part of her cycle. Her cere is a reddish brown and very smooth instead of crusted. And that means she has gone through her entire cycle and she's circling back to white. So we have to wait for her to come round. But she is slowly starting to turn her attention. I'm thinking about putting a full-size block up there just because although she's obviously coming around, this hen is still out, not in her box, which tells me she might be kind of overly concerned about the neighbor. So I'm still thinking about it. I hate to do that because I don't want, first of all, I don't want them to be too much in the dark, and if I block off all their cages, things get very dark because the light doesn't get through. And the other thing is just these guys are a community, and being able to see the neighbors and be in community, I think, is kind of important. So, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. And for these ones that I did have to put a full block on, as soon as they are truly established pairs, I will pull that and put a half block back in again so that they can see the other birds. These two are coming along very nicely. This is Halligan and Dubois, and they are a couple of teenagers in love. This girl, this is Thames, and she is already in and out of that box. Thames wasn't sure he wanted her at first, but I took her out and put her back in after a few days, and that was the end of that. He's in love. Done. This girl, this is Aerie and McCabe. My camera isn't focusing well because it's dark. She is just now starting to accept his advances because I pulled the nest box off of their cage, and she hasn't seen it all day today. So I'll put it back on tomorrow, and then if she starts going all nest boxy on me and ignoring him again, I'll pull it off again. What I'm doing by interrupting these hens in their headlong flight into infertile nests, because they're rejecting males or going to lay too soon, I'm slowing them down by removing her nest box in this case, and by removing a hen herself in the other case. These two are making nice progress. You see them sitting together? It's getting dark in here. And these two, they're doing quite nicely. And the biggest piece of news, this is Bubba Jr. and Sif, and this, if you can see it, is the first egg of the season. Ta-da! That's the fastest. I think they've only had this nest box for 4 days. I think that's the fastest I've ever had. And this one's coming very soon. My camera is not focusing well. Come on, camera. I don't know. Anyway, okay, it might just be too dark in here because this last light's going to shut off at any second. But don't worry, Chalk. We're working on her. We're going to wear her down. She's coming. And the funny thing about Chalk here is he knows his job. And one of the things that he does, even though there's no hen in here, is he comes and he sits right here in front of the nest box, on the ground, right in front of it. What he's doing is he's guarding it because he knows that is a valuable possession. And he wants to make sure no other bird gets it. So he's got his territory, he's got his box, he's just waiting for the hen to move in. He knows the deal. And these two, like I said, she's on the wrong part of her cycle, so old Murphy up there is just going to have to be patient. Okay, that's it.